Hello, my friends. So happy to have you here with me today. This is a special day. I have a special guest for you today that is a world of difference for what you need to do in your life, for your personal internal life, the parts that really matter, because we all know that when we are trying to make a difference in the world, it's not the rest of the world that needs to for us to change. It's us that needs to change. We need to be in a place where we're positive, powerful, clear, concise, and compelling. And my brother Roger Burnley is a mystic. He is a very, very capable individual who has a lot of mystical background, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of information to share with us today. And we are going to be wowed by Roger because Roger's not just Roger, he's famous. He has a lot of experience, he has a lot of background, and I'm just so excited to have him with us today. Roger, my brother, how are you today?
Dean, thank you so much. I am so thrilled to be with you, and the timing could not have been more perfect because I'm about to tell more people about what I've been up to and what I'm doing now. And I want everyone to understand it because I know that people have been wondering what's happening in our world. And I've been, I call myself this reluctant mystic, as I mentioned to you earlier, because
Yeah.
I like kind of withheld all of that, as many of us do when we start to discover who we are.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a little background first of all. I've done so many things in my life, so many different careers, so many different ventures that I went into, and some of them were really successful and happy, but the others I felt I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. And I kept changing, I kept shifting. And people are like, why are you doing this? Why can't you stay steady? And I go, I don't know, but I'm being guided to do something else. And what I'm talking about is our intuition. We
Yeah.
all have it. And but we always listen to it. And I didn't for a long time. And I said, no, I can't really go and do what I'm supposed to do, even though I was being guided so much to move in different directions. When I first began, in college, I'm just going to go back there because I want people to understand. Because if they think that there's some time that they're supposed to arrive at that place of who they are, they're wrong. It happens as you live, as you move through your life, and then you discover it, and you have to. It's always an evolution of
Yeah.
consciousness that we all have. And so when I left college at 19, my family thought, what are you doing? Why are you walking out of school? I said, I know I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I took a job just doing accounting. Then I did that for a few years. Then I did another job, went into a completely different industry, which was managing beauty salons, which I knew nothing about. But I became really successful with it. And to the point where the company that I was working for decided to move me to New York to run the Plaza Hotel, their beauty salon. I mean, this is crazy. The best hotel around, and I'm going to do that.
Right.
Why me? And so then I did that for several years, and I moved from New York, came back, and then I moved to Los Angeles. I was being guided again. I didn't know why, but the energies needed to be different for what I was going to do next. Then um, I was doing all kinds of jobs, anything I could to get by because
Mhm.
I wasn't settled yet. I went back into modeling, which I had done earlier in my life, and so I said, okay, I can work in that industry. Then I took a job just to get money, which was a telephone thing, but we never end up in accidental places. However,
That's right.
and
That's right.
we just figure it out. And so this place was called Life Appreciation Training. All I was supposed to do was do phone calls, customer service. But then I started discovering what was happening. This was a company that the guy who had started it, my boss, he was a funeral director at one time. And he saw there's a need that we need to fill. And I love when people discover things like this because he said people aren't dealing with the families. And they were actually taught just to keep your distance, let the families have their grief. It's not, don't
Yeah.
get involved, all of
Yeah.
that. And they said that doesn't seem to work. You're dealing with families that need your compassion, your empathy. Why aren't you going there? And so what he discovered was, well, people, they haven't dealt with their own grief,
That's right.
which was really fascinating. And so he had this vision, and he decided to create a program, a workshop where he was going to take these people into a weekend workshop. And this was in 1986 again, and where they would move through everything in their lives and start to re-examine who they were, and actually have them grieve. When I first saw it, and I went to one of the workshops because I did it myself and other people, and to see these men, most of them were middle aged, mainly men actually, crying, sitting around crying because they got touched by something that they had been suppressing, something they weren't willing to look at.
Yep.
And then they came out and they were different people.
Hmm.
They felt that their lives had changed, and then they went back to their funeral homes and they started operating differently. Many
Yep.
of them started making changes. They started then working with their directors, because these were mainly owners, and then they started making them different. And so there was this level of compassion now that was coming about.
Hmm.
Which why didn't we do that before?
Right.
Why, you know? But we have to look at, well, wait a minute, that's how things evolve. We are always evolving as individuals and as a society, and we learn new things and we then start going into different directions. So that was in 1986. Then in 1988 I decided I'm changing again. I'm going I'm doing something different, and now I'm terrified because I was going to leave this company. It had been great for me. I had done so much there, but I said, I know I'm supposed to do something else, and they said, you're going to fail. You're going to fail if you leave us, because I had this steady career,
Right.
me money. But I said, but I know there's something else. So I was then led to do vocal coaching. I
Oh,
didn't want to do that. My coach at the time said, no, you have to do this. He told me, he said, you've got to quit your job and do this.
wow.
This makes no sense. I said, I don't know how to do it. I'm not that good. And he says, you know more than anyone that's going to come to you. This is what he said. And then he said, because he was world famous at this time, he had coached every celebrity that you can possibly think of during that time. And so I'm intimidated. He said, no, you will do this. You will become better than me one day.
Hmm.
And I that didn't make sense, but then I understand it now, because of course we're given stuff individually that we're supposed to then add our essence to and make it better. That's called evolution. So I went with that, but I still terrified. And so I decided to start doing something. I had read an article about automatic writing, where you sit and meditate and try to get information to get some help. And because the guy who I read the article from was a business guy, he was going into a new business. He was concerned about that. And he said when he started doing it, he received information and it helped him, and it helped him change his business. I said, I'll do anything because I'm desperate. That's what I said. So I sat down, and I had been meditating already. I'd started it several years ago. So that was not a new concept to me. But the writing part of it was. And I sat for several days and with paper and pen, just like they advise you to do. And nothing came out. Nothing happened for a few days. Then
Wow.
one day, it felt like something took over my hand and I started writing. And I'm hearing information like I couldn't. I said, what is happening? Why am I hearing this? And it startled me, actually. So I just want people to understand sometimes this could happen. And I was so startled. I go, who's speaking to me? And they said, this is part of you. This is your higher self. Or if that makes you uncomfortable, you can call us whatever you like. That's what I heard. And I said, and then I blurted out Wilhelm. Didn't know where that name came from or why I used it. But anyway, that's what happened. And so I started doing this. And then the information that I was receiving was shocking to me most times, because it was advising me how to do everything. It was giving me information about performing, pointing out to me some of my flaws in when I would do a show, for instance, and why I wasn't connecting with the audience, and I was fearful of the audience, and so because of that, they were going to feel that energy. I'm receiving all this information. I could not. It got to the point where I would not leave my home. This became my morning routine. I would
Yep.
never leave my home until I had done my meditation and received that message. I did this for years, and I'm never going to tell anybody that I'm doing it, because I thought they're never going to believe this and they're not going to understand how this is happening, and that I'm doing. And then I took this business that I thought I couldn't do, and it started succeeding. I started getting famous clients. I started getting people who became superstars. I started getting all of that. And no one could figure out how I was doing, because I didn't know music. I didn't know music, but I'm doing this, and my coach knew that I could do it. So that went on for several years, and then I decided to do something else. I said, I'm going to go bigger now, because I always have these ideas. I always have these big ideas, and I opened this huge place in Hollywood, which is where I am, and because I said I want a center for music and entertainment that's going to really, that people can come and congregate and do their thing and the whole bit. And it was the best place ever. It was a huge place, 6,400 square feet. I took this place out of, because I was insane at the time, because I had to renovate the whole thing and do all of this. And then we had the Great Recession. I started this in 2000, and I said I took this place in 2007, and then right after that, 2008, everything was going crazy. And and all the people who were going to come into this project said, no, we're not doing this.
Yep.
And so, because we don't know where the world is going, we don't know what's happening, I said, okay. So then I gave up everything that I had. I sold everything that I had in my life to try to keep this place going, because I was determined that I was going to do this. The universe was saying, no, you probably aren't, because the world is that way. And so then I lost everything. I went bankrupt. I had invested $141,000 into doing this, and then it was all gone. Wow. And I had nothing. And then a month later, after I finally had to, say, okay, I'm giving it all up now, and I'm letting go, because I was hanging on as long as I could. And then at the end of 2009, someone contacted me from Australia saying, I want to do business with you. I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was coming on some sort of scam or something, right. Because a lot of that was going on during that time.
Sure was.
And so, but then he did get back to me. We had conversations. He interviewed me on Skype for hours to get everything about me. He said, I want to put out a program with you. And he says, I hope you don't mind that you might become an internet celebrity. I thought he was out of his mind. I said, that's never going to happen. And then it happened.
You're not so good at predicting.
I said, no, I'm not doing it. So anyway, so we did this, and then it started selling, and people are saying how it's changing their lives and how it's doing all these things. And I'm going, wow, that is so wonderful. And I still had difficulty accepting it. And then I knew what he meant, because I would start going out. People would start recognizing me in restaurants because they saw me from YouTube. I had built a channel that had at one point over 200,000 subscribers on it. Nice. And people were seeing me all the time. But then he also created other channels I was everywhere. And then in 2016, I said, something is changing. And he told me, my partner said, we've made, we were selling this one program, this one product, and we'd made after a few years, we'd made more than $1 million selling this product. And so something was happening.
Yep.
And then I was comfortable.
That's dangerous.
That was. You're exactly right. And then in 2016, I said, something's different. Something's changing, because I'm still receiving information. I'm still doing my thing. I had gone through so many challenges over those years in between that I had recovered from so different things, illnesses, surgeries, hospitalizations, accidents, everything I had moved through. And then I end up being completely okay. How did that happen? Then in 2016, I was guided, because I hear things all the time, and I'm like, write this. And I wrote an article, and it said, and this is the craziest thing ever, but people will start to understand it now. It's 2016, and I said, I might be slightly racist with misogynistic tendencies. Why am I talking about this, and why am I writing it then? And it was something because I knew there was a change going on in our world, and we had to start looking at things that were within us. I didn't know why I was saying this or doing it, but I did it. And so I said, let me see what happens. Then the year later, I knew that I had to make another move. And then I received a message telling me that I was being prepared for all of this. Didn't know what the heck that meant, because I don't typically know what I'm receiving when I get it. And but I knew I need to move in another direction. So I created a program called Empowerment Made Simple. I said, people need to know who they are. They need to come into understanding this. I did not know why I was doing this, but I knew I had to do it. And then I started receiving these results from it. People were saying this stuff was really helping them. Now, you have to understand, I had tried to hide all my writings for years, because I thought people are going to get this. But in 2007, somebody came into my office and found one and said, this is really great and it's helping me. Can you send them to me? So that's how I started sending out the messages. And then years later, a couple of years later, I think that's when I was convinced to put up a website where I would put them up there, and it is there now. It's called Any Advice for Today. And because that's all I would do every day, I would say, please tell me what I'm supposed to know. In the beginning, when I started doing, I was being controlling, though, because as we all do, because I would ask specific questions, and I go, well, I don't know what questions I'm supposed to get answered. How could I know that? I'm just being me. So when I started saying any advice for today, then I started receiving information that was cosmic, that was different. Then in 2020, my messages began to change. And they started saying, your world is moving through a restructuring.
It sure is.
And I'm saying that doesn't make sense to me. What's going on? But I was hesitant to even write some of these things because it was actually unnerving. Because some of the information I was receiving, they said, we're giving you this information not to be afraid, so you can understand what is occurring. Because you're going to see things happening. You're going to see weather events going on in your world. You're going to even the pandemic. They started saying that would come about. Then they're going to say you're going to see chaos and conflict. You could even have a war, and you could even bring back a leader like a Hitler. I'm saying I can't say these things, but then I knew I had to because I was supposed to help people become aware. It says this is not terrible. You're moving through a change. Civilizations have done this all the time.
We have.
And then this is just what happens. Then to make it even crazier, in 2021, I'm walking down the street, and I'd already been receiving all of this information, but I'm going out for a walk, and I hear my guide say to me, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. I said, that's insane. Why am I hearing this? I come into my home, I go to my computer, and just am guided to look at the folders, my little Google folders that I have there, and I see a folder called Wilhelm that I hadn't noticed before. I open it, and the messages in there were 2012. And I go, what am I supposed to do with this? I had to keep putting this together because I was seeing everything that I had written showing up in the world, still happening. Yep. Like several months ago, they started talking to me about giving me information. You might start seeing things in the sky you won't understand. Your unidentified flags, and that's happening now. And right. That's exactly what they were telling me. And so they said, we gave you a philosophy, and it's called your life operating instructions. I said, that makes no sense to me. And they go, well, you're moving into a new dimension. And because of what I've been doing for all these years, elevating my consciousness, writing it down every day, putting it together, said I had this information. And so I still didn't believe it. And so I went to have, we all go through this doubt, you know.
Sure do.
And so I had two Akashic Records readings done that year to give me some help. I've never done anything like that. I never went to those kinds of things or investigated them. And I also didn't tell people what I was doing because I said, I don't want to be judged as being some weirdo that I'm doing this. And so they told me, both of them, the first one I went to, she was kind of cute because she was reading things. She goes, and at the end of the reading, she says, oh, I think I'm supposed to be following you.
Imagine that.
Then I went to the next one, and I waited a few months, and I went to another one. And then she started giving me more information that made sense. She says, you have an ancient memory. She says, and she took me back to look, understanding Egypt, what I had done there, and mummifying people. I go, this makes no sense to me, but it felt real. Years before, I had started studying ancient history, which I did not know why I was doing that because I never studied anything. I didn't go back to study those things, but I'm watching documentaries. They said, we want you to understand what's going on in the world. Okay. So then I said, I've got to try this and let me figure this out because it makes no sense to me. So I put a program together, which I called 4 Weeks to Your Best Life. I said, if this works, I'm going to test it now because I've always tested everything. I never give anything to the public, even in my singing stuff. And when I first did my first program, it was called Singing Made Simple. And then when I did it, I was receiving questions. And I said, okay, I don't like that. I need to answer them. So I redid it 3 times until I never received any questions. because I said I want to answer every question that someone has. I just had this thing that I have to give people something that I know is going to work.
Yep.
And it was the same thing with this. I put these people in this program, and I sent them. They would receive an assignment every day of what they were. It was one of the messages from 2012, and I would interpret it. Then I would give them a little video, 3 minutes or so, explaining what I got from it, and just said, "Now, just write and see what comes up for you." I give them questions, I give them direction, I gave them things to do, because I know that when you're writing, you're going to understand things better. You come into who you are. You start to connect with your consciousness, because that's all we have is our individual consciousness and how we think about ourselves and how we perceive the world. And so I said, I'm still doubting myself though, so I'm not going to look at the I'm not going to look at the assignments right away. But then I did the first night before we were doing a weekly call, because they had to come to a weekly group call. And I started reading some of these, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe what I was reading. These people had changed so much. They were writing things that took me decades to figure out. They had come to awarenesses that it took me so long to know, and they're doing it right away. As I get to the meeting, I was late for the first meeting because I stayed up all night reading these because I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And they said it made sense though, because I said, how could this have happened? And I was reminded from my guys, I said, we gave you infinite intelligence on January 1st of 2012, meaning that you all have it.
Yep.
Everything that's existed in the universe in consciousness is here.
That's
You're
right.
supposed to take this, just like I did with the singing. You're supposed to take this, add your stamp to it, make it better, and give it to others. That's how evolution happens. And
That's
so
right.
when we don't doubt that that's what's going on. And so I did this, and I said, wow, this is kind of fascinating. Then I started doing I started doing live channeling in 2021, because I knew that I needed to bring through more information. And then that kind of freaked me out, because so much information came through telling me exactly what I had. And the point was this. They said, your world is moving through this restructuring. And the reason that you're doing it is that you want something better. And the way that you create something better is when you become better. It's when you start to change all the limiting ideas, beliefs, and judgments that you've had about yourself. Then you can put that into the world. Then you are doing something different. You can create something. They tell me every single person is born with something that they were supposed to bring to the world that would cause their life to be tremendous, fantastic, if they can move through all of the blockages. And I've been doing that for 40 years. So it would make sense that I would have something that would come through. But also they said, but because you channeled all of this and got cosmic information, that's why it works. And then he kept explaining to me all the different sources that they had used, like Carl Jung and Einstein and Tesla and all these people with all these different ideas, because we all have them, except I wasn't studying them. And so I didn't study much. Then what happened in 2020, I discovered something else why I didn't read, which was the fascinating part of this. And they said, because they revealed to me, I was led to go get an assessment for ADHD.
Okay.
Turns out I had it. I had it so big. And they said, yes. And this was what you're supposed to bring to the world, understanding that you all have what was now we call neurodiversity, which is perfect because we're all different in that way. So you each are different levels of understanding and consciousness. You have developed yours because of all the work I had done. So of course I could put something together. And then they started showing me all the other philosophers who had lived lives like mine, where we moved through things, challenges, difficulties, figuring out solutions, because we're supposed to bring that back to the world. That's what I'm doing now. Beautiful. And so I said, your timing was perfect, because I was also, I did only the first 4 weeks, when I first put it out in 2021, but then they said, no, your world is going to still you're going to still be going through this.
Yeah.
And people don't change in a month. So they said, you're going to do it for a year. Create it for a year. People can do what they want, but create for a year. That's what I'm doing. And I'm making that change tomorrow, as a matter of fact, which is why I said your timing was so, so great. I just want people to understand that they were born with value. They
That's
were
right.
born with purpose. They were born for a reason. God did not create people who didn't have meaning.
That's right.
It's just that we have to break through all the stuff that we came in with to get to that so that we can own who we are. And that's what I had to do. And it was a challenge all the way because I thought no one's going to understand this. And then I would see that with all of my clients. I had for 35 years, I'm coaching people and I can see things in there because I'm intuitive. So I could see things within them and also see how they don't believe it.
That's right.
They couldn't accept it, how they can't go there. And so then I started studying more of neuroscience, especially after the ADHD, to understand how we all operate. And I said, oh, well, it makes sense that I would put this together in this way.
Yes.
But I will say to everyone else, though, who might be hearing this and going and thinking about the ADHD, it was when I first discovered, I go, I'm 70 years old. How come I didn't know this before?
Right.
So the first part I was angry because I thought, if I had known this before, certain things would have made sense.
Yes.
My guide said, no, everything happens perfectly. Said
At
no,
the right time, perfect timing, all
exactly. Because
that.
if I had known this and I had studied everything else, I would not have necessarily been able to access the information that I did.
That's right. That's right.
That's what came up.
Beautiful.
And so now my mission is, and people say, you're just out of your mind. I said, yeah, I'm going to keep being that person though. But I said, I'm going to heal the world. Because the more people who come to love who they are, who work through their judgments, who find their purpose, because that's what I'm talking about. Everybody has a purpose. We just think that maybe it isn't important or maybe isn't the right thing. That's never true. It's something that is within each person. It's innate to them. And if it feels good, you're supposed to be doing it.
Right. And to embellish with that, my brother, because you're so bang on and you've spoken of so many powerful truths in the last few minutes. And it's been such a pleasure to listen to you orate because, brother, look at the skill, the wisdom, the depth of knowledge and awareness that you have. And I'm so honored to have you here. And I'm so empowered to hear that what you're saying is what I understand already. And the real power is in sharing that, not only in developing it for yourself so that it makes sense to you, but in being in that place where you can understand that our awareness and our choice that we're born with, our intuitive abilities, those are our superpowers. And those are the things that if we just give ourselves a little bit of encouragement and release a little bit of stress and anxiety, we will learn something that takes us to the next level so quickly. Because the next level is reaching down to pull us up constantly. And it's sending us messages and information to say, hey, here's the next step. Here's the way to get to the next level. Join me, come with me. Let me love you and show you my love and show you how to love others deeply and yourself. Self-love is key because if you can't be at peace with yourself, how in the world can you be at peace with everything else? So my brother,
that's why it was so wonderful to meet you. Because when I first talked to you, I said, oh, wow, he understands all of this. He knows all of this. And so when we find comrades, we can make that message bigger. So we're moving through big shifts now that you're hearing people talking about quantum movements and quantum fields and all of that. I didn't know what that was, did I? Yeah, I did. I went back today and I looked and I saw that I wrote that. Again, I received that information back in 2013, right after the other, saying this is where we are now, and we're going to have quantum fields of information. We're multidimensional beings, so we're going to start understanding that. And we're never supposed to be afraid. All the things that are going on now are causing us to awaken.
That's right.
Who we're meant to be.
That's right. And the ironic thing is that it's amazing how something negative can have a positive result.
Yes.
Because when in 2020, late 2019 and early 2020, when all of this pandemic stuff was starting, I already had an intuitive sense that no, this is not a natural thing. This is a manipulative thing. This is not a quantum thing. This is a political thing. And when I had that awareness, it just everything started to fall into place even more than it had previously. I mean, how can something negative become something positive? Well, I tried to kill myself twice. And look, I'm here helping people now because of that knowledge, because I survived that, because I understood why I did that. I understand how to help people not do it for themselves, right? So I've actually been in a place where I've had people that were on the verge of suicide reach out to me because I had placed myself in a place of
Right.
mentorship and availability. And they're saying, man, I got the gun in my hand. I'm sitting in my car and I'm ready to do this. And they're like, not necessarily like someone I could drive to and help. I've got to help them over the phone.
Right.
And I've spent so many hours talking to various individuals, and every one of them has chosen life.
Mm-hmm.
And I follow them now. And I've seen that that choice has made a huge change. But they had to go to that low place that, you can't get any lower than the rock, which is, of course, Jesus, and get in that place where we understand that, wait a second, I have a purpose. I have a reason. There's something that I need to do. I just didn't understand that at first. And often it's sad, but it's true that oftentimes people have to get to the lowest level of their lives in order to find that place where they can see the ladder to climb up.
Oh, yes. Listen, I was pushed so many times, I can't tell you. Because
Right?
how many disasters can I create in my life before I just start to move in the correct direction?
Right.
And that's everyone. So now, and for you too, that you could only help those people who were who wanted to commit suicide because of your experience and your understanding and your empathy. And so when we move through those things, it's our responsibility to give it back to others,
That's right.
which is what you're doing, which is brilliant.
Yeah. So I got a question for you, Roger, unless you wanted to add something to what you were saying.
No, go ahead.
So I just, I have a couple of questions here, and there's one that's been, that I've been wanting to ask you. So for someone that finds what you do to be the next level of yes, I want to be like Roger, what would you suggest? What skill or habit would you suggest for them to pursue in order? Obviously, you're going to talk about meditation next, but what specifically would you suggest they pursue in order to begin the journey?
A morning routine, just like what I had, getting in touch with who they are. We all have the ability to do it. And yeah, it could be meditation. A lot of people said, I can't do that, but they're not understanding the purpose.
That's right.
Purpose is to get out of your mind for a while so you can hear information, because we all are connected, however you think of it, to God, to spirit, to source, or whatever. We are all connected. But we're also in this physical 3-dimensional world where we're always distracted, or we're having other kinds of things. Also, we have all of the other influences that we came in with. We developed them from our families, from our ancestors. They're in our DNA. And so unless we're willing to look at those and move through them, we keep continuing patterns that cause us to become disempowered and not living the lives that we want to have. And it happens all at the right time in each single person. I went through so many horrible things, but they don't feel horrible now. I want people to understand that, because now I've understood why I had to experience them, and now I can give it back to others so they don't have to. And then our world continues to evolve. And I'll just tell you what they gave me in the work that I have. And they said, this is what you're going to see in your world. You're going to see all kinds of conflicting ideas and beliefs and ideologies coming up. And this is why you're going to have conflict. However, what you're supposed to do with that is decide how you're going to put it together and come up with something that works for everyone. How can you cause the world to evolve? And they say, even with the pandemic, like you were talking about, I started getting things when I was doing the channeling. They said, we gave you the pandemic. They said it in this way. We gave you the pandemic not to split you apart, but cause you to come together.
That's right. That's right.
That's what it is.
And a lot of people don't realize that when we were sent home like that, and the global order for all of us to go home and stay there, that wasn't, the result of that wasn't what the oligarchs expected. They expected a division, like you mentioned, but it didn't result in that. It resulted in a collection, a coming together of in a huge way, a very, very spiritual, vibrationally oriented way. A lot of people, because they were sent home, they had to face themselves, and they had to face their family, and to face their lives, and they had to understand, wait a second, I've been avoiding living and using my job or whatever as an excuse to use that as an escape. And you mentioned earlier about how people have to go through the experience in order to have the ability, the wisdom, the knowledge to help someone else go through something.
Right.
And this is what I've noticed with so many people today is most people, or so many people, are avoiding the experiences. They're denying themselves that growth
Mhm.
out of fear, stress, anxiety, confusion, lack of information, peer pressure that you're going to fail, that there's no way you can do that sort of thing. And this is the power of society to stop growth.
Mhm.
And this is what we need to recognize. We need to be in a place where we understand that in order for each of us as individuals to grow, we need to become uncomfortable and grow. We
Right.
can't sit on the couch and expect things to change. We got to get out there and move our body, work our mind, meet people, connect, grow, and use our awareness to make better decisions.
Mhm.
And this is where a lot of people fall down because they choose to numbify themselves with streaming,
Yeah.
whatever habit they have, whatever it could be external. I mean, all these external habits that have
Right.
nothing to do with the internal growth or internal connection or awareness. There's a lot of things in life.
There, I'll tell you, you said something else really great. And I've been talking about this program for the longest time, and I tell people, you can really change your life. You can really transform, and it's so easy. All you have to do is just follow this work, and it'll be. And they look at me like I'm crazy. I said, no, that's not possible. And that is because they've already been programmed into thinking who they are is that all that's all there is. And I'm saying, no, you're never done. I don't care who you are, how wealthy you are, how successful, there's always more that you can ascend to. There's another level of awareness that you can move to. And we're all doing that now. The entire planet is doing that now.
100%. So out of curiosity, brother, what are the greatest resources that you have today that help you along your journey?
It is I will listen to, because I need stimulation as well. So I'll listen to several people that I really feel give great information on YouTube. I'll listen to that, or audiobooks or something, because I love audiobooks a little bit more than sitting reading. And I will, just because I know that as I'm doing that, it's stimulating a memory. That's what it is, because we all have memories. We all have this information, but we use everything else, studying, coaches, mentors, and all of that, to stimulate that memory so we can kind of come back and remembering who we're supposed to be. That's really what happens.
So just out of curiosity, we're all influenced by individuals in our lives. And the longer we live, the more we tend to resonate with specific influences, ones that have helped us the most or challenged us the most. And oftentimes we find ourselves, we're in a place where we either have a mentor or a family member or a historical figure that has inspired us or empowered us based on their experiences and how they've shared their experiences. Who in your life would be a mentor or a family member or a historical figure that you find has been a big influence?
I'm going to bring this up only because I've studied so many people over the years, way back when. But I just saw this video the other day, and this is a perfect example. It was with Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. They were doing a conversation, having a conversation together. And I listened to Wayne for years before I had his stuff, and I loved him. I said, I understand what he's saying. I understand everything that he's talking about. And then I started hearing Abraham, and I thought, oh, well, they're doing what I can do too. But I always said, oh, but they're probably so much better. They probably have more. This is what we do. We're seeing things that we're being shown that are supposed to inspire us, but then we will say, well, it couldn't be me. I'm saying, because I did that. And so when I watched that video, it was just the other day, just last week, I'm thinking, oh, Wayne didn't understand that when he was talking to Esther. I do now.
Yes.
It's an evolution of consciousness that we all move through. But when we make others more than what we think we can be, then we get stuck. And then one of the things that came through is they said, my guide said, you have confused your teachers with your leaders. Meaning that the teachers are causing us to become the leaders in our own lives.
That's right.
That's all.
That's all. And you having mentioned that, there's something that I've noticed a lot, and that very thing that you talked about, where you have a passion, a desire, a vision for something that you can do to help others. And then you connect or discover an individual that is already doing what you're thinking about. And then you find that yourself, you're saying, well, I could never be that good. And then you give up.
Yep.
Or you stop.
Yep. Yeah.
Or you don't even you don't even try. And this is the opposite of what's supposed to happen. You've mentioned evolution of the self numerous times in this conversation, and the power of our ability to recognize that other people are setting an example, not a limit.
Right.
And we have to be in a place where we are thanking ourselves, not spanking ourselves, to be in a place where we understand that, wait a second, this person is giving me a step up, a hand up, a way to learn how to be better myself. Take the lesson, individualize it with your own character and your own program, and share it with the world. I mean, look at what the internet has done for society. If it wasn't for the internet, we would not have access to the information that we have today. And the whole idea is for us to improve and to grow and to evolve as individuals as well as communities. Because if the individual is growing, then the community should follow up at the same time.
Right.
And the whole idea is it can't unless we're connecting with the community to do so. Right. So this is where we are in a great place. No, brother, if you don't have a comment, I have a question. Do you have something you want to add to that?
I just want to say you said some great stuff. I'll just talk about this. Years ago, I watched a TED Talk talking about the imposter syndrome. And I thought, oh, that's probably my problem, because they gave a great talk on the imposter syndrome. And then everybody started saying, that's what's wrong with me. I have the imposter syndrome. Until I discovered there is no imposter syndrome.
That's right.
There doesn't exist. It's just us holding back from where we're being guided and coming to own who we are. Yeah. Okay. I want your question.
Yeah. No, and it's ironic because we label things that we fear or don't understand, and we let those labels put us in a box.
Right.
Meanwhile, the label's supposed to put the issue or the circumstance in a box. But when it turns around and it's the opposite, we're creating our own trap when we do that.
Right.
And we find ourselves unable to think past that because of the label. And that's something we need to be aware of. Now, with respect to what you do or what we do, because you and I are very much on the same level, what is one myth or problem that you've experienced or encountered that you'd like to debunk that you're seeing these days?
I can go back to Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
And I always remember this one segment that I would see where he talked about impossible. There's nothing that's impossible.
That's correct.
But when we think that, it will become that for us, because we're always creating our own reality by how we choose to think. And so the thing that I think is the most frustrating for me, or I get passionate about, is when I see people not being willing to take that next step into discovering who they are, not being willing to uncover the gifts and the genius that's within them, because everybody has it. We just interpret it incorrectly sometimes. We think something is wrong, but no, it's just something you were given that you're meant to develop and bring to the world. And if you do that, your life will be wonderful. That's all.
That's all. It's as simple as that. And the irony is that the simplicity of it is in our face all the time.
Right.
And but the thing is, we don't choose to be more aware. We've been instilled this mantra of fear, and don't do this, don't do that. There's so many don'ts in the world, but where are all the do's? If you're not going to do this, then what are you going to do?
Right.
And a lot of people get all caught up in the errors they make and don't realize that it's what you do after the error that counts. Everybody's going to make mistakes. There's not a soul that's ever existed that hasn't made an error of some sort. So what is the next step? And that's something that, as much as my dad was abusive physically and mentally, that is one of the things that he always pushed on me is, you made a mistake, son. What are you going to do about it now? He was never happy with my solution, but that's besides the point. He was asking that crucial question, right? And we do have people in life that we cannot please. I was never able to get anything positive from my father, and it affected me a lot. It actually was part of what drove me to try suicide, because I didn't understand that he had been doing his best with what he had at the time, that had nothing to do with how it affected me. It had everything to do with how he did not evolve in order to be a better father, right? And sadly, go ahead. I see it. There's a thought there. I can see it on your
I
tongue.
wrote something yesterday. It was so perfect for what you're saying. I said, not everyone will understand or accept you
Hmm.
because that's your job.
That's right.
And see, with parents, that's what we do a lot. We want them to understand us. We want them to accept what we're doing. And even though they may be in a totally different programming that they've come into the world with, they're not going to see what we're doing. But we keep trying to get them to understand who we are as we're gaining new awareness that's supposed to come in. But we still want them to. And I did that for years.
Right.
I did it with my family too. Let them
Sure.
understand what I'm doing. Oh no, we have different evolutionary paths. We have different DNAs. We're all supposed to do something different, and we're all supposed to be unique individuals.
And you use the word unique, and ironically, it makes me think of a joke. And I'm going to share a joke with you. How do you catch a unique rabbit?
Oh, that's a good no clue.
Unique up on him. Now, second part of the joke. How do you catch a tame rabbit?
uh,
Tame way. Silly dad joke, but
so
they
that, yes, but that crazy rabbit. I remember. Yes.
right.
Uh,
So, anyways, so just out of curiosity, um, what advice would you give to someone that wants to become a mystic like yourself? Where should they start? What should they do?
start to trust it, trust what they're hearing, and I'm so glad you asked that because I'm finding more people who are awakening now to another side of themselves or more spiritual awareness. And I had a lady the other day who came to me because she saw me talking about being the reluctant mystic, and it
Right.
gave her permission to then say, oh yeah, I've been doing that too. I've been holding back. I know I'm supposed to do something. I know I'm here to help, and I know, but I can't tell people. I can't go out there and own this. And that's what I see so much.
Yeah.
And so, just the first step is understanding everything that you perceive is in your consciousness. You can change your consciousness. It's been programmed in from the past, and now you're supposed to use what you know now to actively change it. This is why the morning routines are different. It's an everyday process. It's
Yes.
an everyday activity that we do to change our brains.
Right. And you mentioned every day and the
Mhm.
process. And a lot of people don't understand that life is to be lived, not feared. And a lot of people go through every day of their lives fearing what they need to do next,
Right.
or being anxious about what they may or may not have done. And that's not the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be in a place of appreciation, gratitude, acceptance of who we are and what we can and cannot do. Now, our weakness where we're supposed to focus? No, but society always drives you to improve your weaknesses, and in that action you are actually not paying attention to your strengths.
Right.
We all have those strengths for a reason. Those strengths are part of our toolbox to allow us to be the best person we were created to be. My
Uh,
tools aren't going to be the same as yours, and your tools aren't going to be the same as that lady you were speaking to, but
uh,
we all have the ability to do something unique and powerful. So, in that place, what skill or habit would you suggest people embrace more than anything else on their journey to this, if they want to become a mystic?
I'm going to read something to you
Yeah.
because many people will understand this because I was given this in 2012 um, to inform me and everyone else what my work was about, but also more importantly, what everyone was supposed to understand about their lives, especially as we're moving through this transition in our world. And it
Yeah.
was this: your story is unique and valuable. It is unique because no other soul shares precisely your story. It holds the utmost value for you. Your story is comprised of everything your past holds, including all that has occurred for you, happened to you, everything you have done, every person you have met, every word you have spoken. All of it has been and will always be perfect. Your only job then is to seek to know the perfection of your story. Any aspect of your particular story that you attempt to ignore, dismiss, or judge will cause you to experience some difficulty because you are refusing to receive the information and wisdom that your story holds.
And the key word is your story holds. It's
Right.
already there. The information is already there.
Yep.
And that's the part that people miss. I can't find it. I can't do it. I can't, I can't. And guess what? That is a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you say
Right.
you can't, guess what? You can't, because you've already made the decision that you're not even going to try, right? Let alone make a mistake. Because if you don't try, you can't make a mistake. And like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, it may be a hockey euphemism, but it's nonetheless the truth, right, my friend?
Exactly.
So if there was one question that I have not asked you during this interview, Roger, what would that be? Is there something you'd like to share with us that I haven't asked you about?
I think why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing now. That would probably be the
Go
most.
for it. Tell us.
I need everyone to understand this. I spent so many years, days, hours suffering because I didn't understand what was going on in my life. I didn't understand who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it was the most, and I know that I caused so many of the disasters to occur because I was fighting it all the time.
Right.
I was resisting it. Resistance is the biggest problem that we all have, we experience. And when I came to understand that and finally accept that, wait a minute, I live this life for a reason, so that I could give back something to others, because I want them to understand they have something to give back to others when they understand and access who they are. And so my life now is getting them to access that information. And it takes time because they have to then become integrated and own it before they can start to manifest the life that they really want to live. And everybody has that ability.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And my brother, it's so powerful. And of course, timing. The simple fact that we are here right now together, and you've mentioned this is perfect timing. This is perfect.
Exactly.
There is no less than perfect. Everything is perfect. It's a perfect disaster or a perfect victory, right? But perfection is rampant, and there's nothing but perfection. The catch is that we need to be aware and be able to make a choice in the face of that perfection, whether it's a disaster or a great victory, right? We need to understand where we stand in that and what is our next step. We didn't necessarily make the mistake on purpose, although many of us are able to do that. And I don't encourage making mistakes on purpose. However, we all have, out of fear, ignorance, anxiety, I'll deal with that later, or whatever the case may be. So the simple fact that you and I are talking right now is so powerful for me, because you know what? It was expected. It was almost like that when you have that truth seer or whatever, when you're at the fair and you open up the tent flap and the mystic or the psychic says, "I was waiting for you. I knew you were going to show up today." And you're thinking, wait, I was going to walk right by and chose to come back in. And they said, I know. Right. So we have the ability to be that powerful, that have that perception of truth. The catch being that when we speak of the perception of truth, your truth and my truth are going to be different.
Right. Yeah.
Your truth is for you. My truth is for me. Now, as a community, when we have a lot of people gather together that each have an understanding of their own truth, and we gather together to bring that into a bigger truth, that's when movement in society happens. That's when things start to change. We need that very desperately now. We need to be in that place because the society is at a crossroads right now, brother. We're either going to go light or we're going to go dark.
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about,
yes.
right?
You gave me, there's another thing they gave me to understand this particular period. They gave me so many messages, but it said, "You are right and so are they." What does that mean? And it was like, we have to understand that we're going to all have different evolutionary journeys. We have different DNAs. We have different, all of that, but we're all connected. We're all particles of the one source of the one. And so we're supposed to come together and figure out what our part is. How can I add something? And let the other people add what they're going to add. We're going to end up with, and they kept saying, the only thing that remains ever is light and love.
That's it. Because that is creation in itself.
Right.
Light and love is in itself life itself. So powerful, powerful conversation today, brother. And the irony is that the truth that we've just shared is transformative. It's so powerful, and it's
Right.
so accessible to anybody. So, having said that, I'm going to start sharing ways for people to connect with you, because I
Perfect.
want to make sure that everybody has the chance to connect with Roger Burnley and make a difference in their lives. If you don't resonate with me, please, I hope that you resonate with Roger, my friends. For people that are watching live and people that are watching the replay, trust me when I tell you that Roger has a beautifully human, loving heart and would love to help you understand more about who you are and what your purpose is. And so would I. So whichever one of us you resonate with, or connect both of us, I doesn't matter to me. But
Yes,
speak
exactly.
the
I've been to
truth.
many.
Speak
we,
the truth. That's all I can
we get
say.
some from everyone. Yes,
Right? I mean, we were just talking about how everybody has a little tidbit of truth, and we need to
absolutely.
come together to create the whole truth.
Yeah.
So there you have it. So, brother,
Okay.
there's your link tree.
Perfect.
And I'm just going to flow through those. And if anybody wants to share anything, go ahead. Or if you want to share anything about it as I go, by all means, say something. Did they want to share anything about that?
It is. It's yeah. I will. Anyone can. They can check out. They can find all my work there. They can also schedule a if they want to apply for a consultation, meaning that I
Beautiful.
will sit
Beautiful.
with them and I ask them questions beforehand, so I have information, and then I can kind of give them guidance on
Absolutely.
where they're moving, what what they can do now, and my intuitive sense always comes through, so I give them some words of wisdom from that. So.
And you got to be careful with that, because some people don't have a very thick skin. And when you call them on it, sometimes they get offended.
I try to do it lovingly. Somebody
Right?
said one of my testimonials. Somebody said exactly that. They said Roger called me out on everything, but she says, but he did it lovingly.
There you go, right? Right? And that's the way we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to accuse. Now,
Right.
we're supposed to support. And one of the things that I say now and again, depending on the conversation, if it's appropriate, is if I were to agree with you, well, then we'd both be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that like, what? That gets them to think a little bit more. So, anyways, I believe this is your website, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Cool. And then this is going to be your LinkedIn link.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to add these in the comments after the show.
Great.
I might even put them in the post. What would you prefer? Would you rather have them in the comments or in the post itself?
In the post, I think would be great because they
Okay.
can that
Yep.
that would be clickable, I guess, or something
Yep.
from there.
And then
Yeah.
there's facebook.com.
Right.
That's where your Facebook, and then here's your Instagram. Now, anybody watching the replay, you can you'll get this stuff either on screen, which you can't click, or in the comments or the show notes. Actually, Roger requested show notes. We'll put them in the show notes. And then there's your YouTube. So awesome, brother. And it was such an awesome experience.
Dean, I can't thank you enough. This was really, really, truly wonderful.
Awesome, brother. Is there anything you'd like to add before we break off?
No, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. The more times I want to encourage people. I want them to understand. So the more opportunities that I have, I'm thrilled. So thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Don't go away. I'm gonna end the broadcast, but we're gonna chat a bit after. So don't take off on me, brother.
Alrighty.
All right, my friends, and there is Roger Burnley. And thank you so much for showing up today. I really appreciate you being here. By all means, if you have questions, it was so well explained, Roger, that no one had any questions for you while you were talking.
Right.
But people will have questions in the future. So by all means, anybody that is in that place, reach out to me and or Roger, and we will get you sorted. So, my friends, thank you so much. Have a great day. And here comes the owl that I love so much.